What's up everybody, Brian here with BPS Customs, and you may be asking yourself, why are you sitting here in front of this pile of parts? Well, I think if you've been watching this channel with any regularity, you know the answer to that question. It's time to put another system together. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building a mini ITX system inside of the Thermaltake Core V1 chassis. This is a case that I have never actually used before. I've never even had it out of the box, but look at how small this is. If you remember the build that I did up here with the NZXT Manta, you'll know that the first thing that I noticed when I took it out of the box is that it's quite large, especially for a mini ITX chassis. Now, it's basically the size of even like a medium or large size micro ATX chassis, which are considerably larger. This, however, this Thermaltake Core V1, I just picked this up today. It's specifically for this purpose. It's gonna be a stream box build, so I want it to be small. It's gonna sit next to my main PC, and the only function it's gonna have is to capture my gameplay or anything else that I want to stream, perhaps do some Twitch streaming in the future or YouTube streaming, but it's going to be kind of a stationary little box, and I don't want it to be too intrusive. So I picked up this chassis and we're going to take a little closer look at it while we do this build. So if you guys are knowledgeable about game capture and game streaming, you know that the most important part of the system is certainly the processor. Now, tasks like game capture and streaming are heavily processor intensive, meaning that the more cores and more threads you have, the better off you are. Now, that's not to say you can't get away with a processor that's a couple generations old. It just means that what you really need to be looking for are high thread counts and higher clock speeds to be able to keep up with the data that's coming in from your other system that you want to either stream or capture and record. For our purposes, what we're going to do is we're going to go with the i7 4790K. I picked that up in this video. This is a Craigslist find, actually, and I've used it in another system build before, but you know, my systems tend to come together and then get taken apart right away. I have kind of computer shrapnel all over my office, but I do try to keep it contained within the original packaging, so if I need to use it again, I can. So I have right now the 4790K is back in the box and it's ready to go. It worked perfectly the first time. I'm hoping it works perfectly the second time. Otherwise, you know, we're gonna have some issues. The 4790K is gonna be sitting in this. This is the Gigabyte Z97 and Wi-Fi motherboard. This is a mini ITX board. Because it is a Z97 chipset, it's gonna allow for some overclocking if we need it. It also has built-in Wi-Fi, which is a really nice feature to have in a mini ITX build because there's not a whole lot of space left over for things like additional Wi-Fi cards. I don't have my office right now wired up with anything more than the power line adapter. That video you can see up here. And as a result, if I ever put a system together, I need to make sure that it has Wi-Fi capability. Now, I have a couple of USB Wi-Fi adapters that are good temporarily, but they're not permanent solutions and the speeds are not great. And in a mini ITX build, like I said, room space is kind of at a premium, so you know, putting in something like a Wi-Fi card, an add-on card is possible, but not really ideal. So the fact that this has built-in Wi-Fi is a big bonus for us, and that's why, or one of the reasons that we're gonna go with it. The video card that we're gonna be using for this build is the reference style GTX 770. Now, a streaming and capture system is not something that you really need a lot of video processing horsepower for. In fact, you could probably even get away with not putting a video card in the system. We don't want to tax the processor too much because we want it to be able to capture the footage at the highest possible resolution. And for that reason, we're going to put a discrete graphics card in it. Now, I had this GTX 770 from a prior build a long time ago, so it just kind of sits on my shelf right now as decoration, and I figured I'd put it in this system. It's going to take a lot of the load off the processor, so you don't have to use any integrated graphics. It's going to be just fine for our purposes right now. We're not going to be doing any video editing on this system at all. All the game capture footage is going to be exported to my main system for editing. For RAM, we're going to go with 16 gigs of Kingston HyperX. This is RAM that I actually put in another build, my AMD build, which I'll link to up here and in the video description if you want to check that out. It got repurposed for this machine because I don't really use that at all. It wasn't a system that I build to keep long term. It was just kind of put together on my test bench. So I harvested it out of there and we're going to put it in this system. 16 gigs is just about what you want to have for a game capture system. Storage in this build is going to be the OCZ Tryon 150. This is a 120 gig SSD. This is just going to run the operating system and a couple other programs like OBS, but I don't need it to store video files. For that purpose, we're going to throw in a Western Digital 1 terabyte blue drive that I actually just took out of my other system in this video up here. Cooling for the processor is going to be the Cooler Master Vortex Plus. It's a low profile cooler. You can see it right here. You can see that it's actually, it's very short. So it's ideal for things like mini ITX builds where you don't have a lot of space. Cooler Master actually makes a whole series of coolers that are low profile, meant to be used in smaller cases. This is actually the biggest low profile cooler that they have, but it's gonna work just fine in our case. There's plenty of mounting room above the motherboard, and we shouldn't run into any space issues at all. I found that the Cooler Master Vortex also plays really nicely with RAM. There's generally no clearance issues. It doesn't interfere with any heat spreaders or anything like that. So that's another reason that I like to go with this cooler for this kind of build. Powering the system, we're just gonna go with a very basic power supply. This is a Corsair CX430. It's a 430 watt bronze rated power supply. It's not super powerful and it does not need to be. This is not an overkill system. It's not gonna have a huge amount of power draw. And frankly, it's not gonna be on all the time. So the 80 plus bronze rating is not really a problem. It's not gonna be drawing a whole lot of power. This is gonna be just fine for our needs, although the cables are not really my favorite. If I need to at a later time, I could put some extensions in there if it's really bothering me. This is going to be more than enough for what we need for this build. All right, so we're all done with the build. Just a couple things that I wanted to note about how the build process went, some things that I actually needed to change while doing the build, and the reasons why. So the biggest thing, as you probably saw when I was putting everything together, was that we actually ended up having to go with the 750 Ti as opposed to the 770 as I had originally planned. The reason for that was actually that I am dumb and didn't actually take a look at the box when picking up the Corsair CX430. Now, it's not like that power supply can't handle the 770, but the problem is it comes with only one PCIe 8-pin connector. So if I wanted to go with the 770, which needs an 8-pin and a 6-pin, I would have needed to get a Molex to 8-pin converter, which I did not have when I was putting the system together, and I did not feel like running back out to Micro Center to grab one. So what I did instead was use the 750 Ti, which actually only uses one PCIe 6-pin connector as power. Like I talked about earlier in the video, this kind of system is not going to need any serious video rendering capability. The GPU is actually only there to take a moderate amount of load off of the CPU. So it's not going to be an issue that the 750 Ti is in there instead of the 770. The second thing is that when I was mounting the Western Digital 1TB hard drive, I found that the drive sled provided by Thermaltake was actually really poorly thought out. The screw placement holes for hard drives only let you screw in one set, either the bottom or the top set, meaning that the drive is free to move and kind of pivot along whichever axis you've chosen to screw in. This really wouldn't be a problem with a solid state drive because they have no moving parts. But the hard drive actually has a spinning platter that's going to cause a lot of vibration unless you lock it in place and make sure that it's not going to move around while it's in operation. What I had to do was actually drill some additional holes in the sled and make sure that there was enough mounting points so that the drive wouldn't move around when it was in use. The third thing, you probably saw me put in some cable tie down points. There are these little plastic white adhesive pieces that you could attach to the chassis, use them to route zip ties, and it really helps clean up the system interior because it gives you a lot more points where you can make sure your cables are routed the exact way you want it to once you put everything together. The last thing actually doesn't really have anything to do with the build. It actually has something to do with the Cooler Master Vortex cooler. The Vortex uses the same mounting system as Intel stock coolers, where they have small plastic pieces that actually push through the mounting holes in the motherboard and clip into place. Now, when I went to do that with this system, I pushed the mounting post through the hole and it actually broke. The bottom piece where that actually catches on the motherboard snapped off when I pushed it through. I don't really think I was using any excessive force. This is something that I've done 100 times in the past, so I'm not really sure what happened, but I was able to come up with a solution. I actually harvested a mounting post off of the Intel stock cooler that I took out of the 4790K box, and I was able to use it to mount the Vortex cooler because, like I said, it is the same mechanism. So while I didn't get any video of that, here are some photos that I took while I was doing it. And it surprised me that it worked as well as it did. It's not ideal because, obviously you want the mounting solution that was provided by Cooler Master, and I'm gonna reach out to them and see if they'd like to comment on it at all. But for now, it's perfectly fine. It works. It's in place, not going anywhere. All right, so we're gonna run through some benchmarks right now. When I posted on Twitter that I was doing this video, I asked my followers if they'd like to see benchmarks on the system or if it was really kind of irrelevant because it's not something that I'm gonna be gaming on. And of course, everybody just wants to see benchmarks. So here they are. As you can see, I didn't actually stick to my normal benchmarking suite. I went with benchmarks that actually are more applicable to what I'll be doing with this system. In this case, I went with Cinebench R15, which is something that I normally do. I ran both the OpenGL test and the CPU test. I then ran Crystal Disk Mark on both the SSD and the hard drive to see what kind of speeds I'm going to be getting while capturing footage. Lastly, I ran PC Mark 08. It is a very comprehensive system benchmarking utility. It gives you an overall score that lets you compare your system to similar systems. So that's about going to wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I'm going to get a decent amount of use out of this capture system. It's going to be hooked up to both my main system right there and also to my test bench, so I'll be able to capture some footage off of both using the Elgato HD60 Plus capture card, and either OBS or the Elgato software. So toss a like on this video. That really helps me out a lot. Leave a comment. Let me know, what I screwed up about this build, or if you have any questions about what I did or the parts that I used. Find me on Twitter, BPS_customs, and get subscribed. We have a lot of great content coming for you, and I really wouldn't want you to miss it. I'm Brian with BPS Customs, and as always, thanks for watching.